Okay. All right. And I see myself, which is a great sign that things are moving in the right direction. Okay. And now I'm hearing myself.
And I see myself.
Okay. Got that. So folks, if you begin tuning in now, you're seeing a little bit ahead of the show. I'm going to hit broadcast on for our Zoom viewers, and then we're going to get started. All right. Okay, so let me go ahead and make this a little bit more exciting for folks. All right, and I see participants joining us on Zoom. I want to get you guys pulled up here. What a fantastic, I don't know if anyone is in the DC area right now, but it is a gorgeous day, which is a perfect time to have a wonderful discussion. I'm not going to say to be inside, but it is a wonderful time to have a discussion and to maybe put a little bit of thought into how we use each and every day, how we participate in each and every day. And so what I wanted to do is, while we have a little bit of time, it's 2:01 Eastern, just welcoming some people as they get in. I want to go ahead and start with a sponsorship message. And before we get started, support for this show comes from Boulder Strategic Consulting. You can drive your business strategy with a digital plan that unites and engages your team. Boulder Strategic Consulting can bridge the gap between your technology and marketing departments. You need insights to inspire business transformation, and Boulder will empower you to thrive in a digital world. You don't have to stress out about your digital transformation projects anymore. Let Boulder Strategic Consulting come in and help you and your team reach success. Find out more at boulderstrategy.com. That's BOLDR strategy.com. All right, so thank you for joining us today. I want to welcome everyone to Association Chat. This is such a spectacular honor because I have the great good fortune and opportunity of talking with Sam Horn. Sam is the founder and CEO of the Intrigue Agency, which helps people craft intriguing communications that get people's eyebrows up. She is on a mission to help people create the life, work, and relationships of their dreams. Her books, Tung Fu, Pop, and Washington Post bestseller Got Your Attention have been endorsed by Tony Robbins, Stephen Covey, and Seth Godin, who's been on the show. And they have been featured in New York Times and on NPR. Sam's here today to share some of the stories and insights from her new book, Someday is Not a Day in the Week. People, it's not. And by the way, this book has already been endorsed by Sheri Salata, who is the executive producer of the Oprah Winfrey show, who calls Sam one of the brightest lights and most accessible wisdom sharers in our culture today. So please help me in welcoming intrigue expert Sam Horn. Yay! Woohoo! I'm so excited. I'm so excited you're here. Oh, okay. So Sam, you have been on, and you always seem to be on a world tour and out and on such an adventure. And I've been watching your travels. You were in LA for the LA, what was the book festival?
The Los Angeles Times Festival of Books.
Los Angeles Times Festival of Books. You've been delivering workshops. You've been speaking. You've been, I follow you kind of stalkerish online all over the place. And now we get to talk about Someday is Not a Day in the Week. And this is a really big deal, not just because we get to ask you directly about, you've written several books. They've all been really successful. I've got another one right here, Pop. So why this book? Why now? Let's start there. Why this book and why now?
Well, Kiki, it all is because Andrew Horn, who you just
I
interviewed
did.
on Association Chat. I,
Yeah.
I was in Southern California and I was consulting with a client. It was very intense. And Andrew called while I was on my way to the airport, and he sensed something in my voice. And he said, "What's up, Mom?" And I said, "Andrew, I am so exhausted. I don't even know if I can get on that plane tonight. I've got to fly back to DC and then fly back to the West Coast in a couple days." And he was the one who said, "Mom, you run your own business."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "You have autonomy." He said, "There's something about you I don't understand, is that you could make your life more of what you want it to be now, and you're not taking advantage of it." Out of the mouths of 20 somethings.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that next day, he said, "I've got this." He said, "Stay in California. You can operate your business from there. And then you fly to San Francisco on Friday." And that next day, I went exploring and I was drawn as if by a magnet to a bookstore. And I was drawn to this shelf of books. And I thought, I am a writer. That's what I am. And yet I'd been so busy, I hadn't had time to write. And I finally decided that it was time to stop putting that off, something that put the light on in my eyes. So I
Mm-hmm.
took off for a year by the water and visited bodies of water and wrote about them. And it resulted in that book you're holding in your hands.
Yeah, I have to say that I was super excited to get this because, first of all, Association Chat has a book club. So, you guys, anyone who's watching this, we are just wrapping up Radha Agarwal's book Belong. And Someday is the book for next month. We're covering this in May. So you still have time to jump in and visit the Patreon site and you can sign up and participate in this. But I was so excited to get this because, I'd been following your blog and your posts, and I had read about this year by the water and following your posts online and so curious about, what went into that. And for those who don't know, I mean, you've always been really busy and your schedule is pretty full and you always seem to be traveling to so many places that I remember thinking upon first hearing about your year by the water, like, how is she going to do this? And like, what's going on really? And is she going to come back? Like, are you like, going off for a year by the water and that becomes the rest of your life by the water? I mean, I didn't know.
Kiki, I'm so glad you're bringing that up because I can only imagine, this is Association Chat. So we have executives and entrepreneurs and association professionals, and they're thinking, I'm working 6-7 days a week.
Yeah.
There's no way I can do that. I'm out of here. This is not even relevant for me. So
Right.
let me tell you the quick story about it. And then why we're not talking about taking a year off work, or we're not talking about taking your business on the road. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking about just getting crystal clear about one thing that will put the light on in your eyes, even if you're working 7 days a week, or a single mom taking care of kids, or taking care of your parents with dementia. So it doesn't have to be this big thing. It's just one thing that is relevant and meaningful for you. So here's the 1-minute story behind that. I launched this at the National Press Club there in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And when I told people what I was going to do, most people burst into applause. Take me with you. 2 people who pulled me aside, and one was very clear that I must have some dramatic health problem because it was crazy to do this. And they said, "Are you having a midlife crisis?"
Wow. Yeah.
And having midlife clarity. And the other cautioned me and said, Sam, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. It's like you go off the grid and your clients may stop booking you and your business may go away. And when you come back, everything you worked so hard for is gone. And I really had a crisis of conscience. So I bet you have some comments on that. And then I'll tell you what happened that helped me reframe this in a way that freed me up to go.
Well, I mean, exactly. I think if I would have heard that, even that little bit of pushback, I think that's enough to unnerve so many of us where, it's a natural thing to think, oh, that could be right. And could this impact the rest of my work? And if I do this thing, will people still be there for me when I return? And I think that doubt and that those naysayers, it only takes a couple, right? Or even just one, because it feeds that doubt in your mind. And so how did you overcome that?
Well, I'm a woman on a mission about how to disrupt that automatic assumption that there's no way we can do that, because that is what keeps us in that state of perpetual procrastination, where we continue to put off what's important because we think we just can't do it. I'm very fortunate because I saw my favorite TV program, CBS Sunday Morning, and James Taylor was on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the interviewer said, it's been 12 years since your last album. What took so long? And James Taylor said, I need creative solitude to write. I've been on the road touring all this time. And so the reporter said, oh, so you took time off work to write, huh? And James Taylor gets this beatific smile on his face, and he said, no, I didn't take time off work. I did a different kind of work.
Love that.
See, we think vacation is taking time off work, that it's indulgent, that we have to have our work done in order to have fun. Or we see what I do as frivolous or something. No, Kiki, it was one of the most meaningful pivots in my life. It opened up a whole new world to me. I met people I'd never met. I went places I never met. I had a chance to write about them and speak about them and coach about it. And now, in a meaningful way I could not have anticipated, the next in my life is a direct result of me having the courage and the clarity to do the opposite of my always.
I love that. And actually, Carolyn, who is watching with us right now on Zoom, says, love that. A different kind of work. Congratulations on your pivot. Absolutely. I mean, and reframing it so that, like, it's not indulgent, it's a different kind of work. And what if we all did that? So there's some homework, actually, or some extra work, bonus work, fun work that you gave some of the people who were in the audience ahead of time. I was posting some promotions and trying to remind people that we had this interview coming up. And you gave us a little bit of homework. So I wanted to talk about this mysterious thing called the happiness box. So what is this happiness box? And could you maybe walk us through that a little bit?
You bet. Well, now I know that some people are here with us live and some people will be listening on a podcast later. So unless you're driving, don't take your hands off the wheel. But otherwise, get a piece of paper, because we're going to do a 2-minute exercise right now. This happiness box that for many people, they have in the room epiphanies that help them make a dramatic shift in their life that creates a quality of life they want now, not someday. So draw a square on your notes, a big box on your notes, okay?
Big box. Got it.
Now divide it into 4 quadrants. So put a vertical line down the center, horizontal line in the center. So you've got four little squares in that box. Now, upper left box, put the little number 1 up there. That's going to be box 1.
Okay.
Upper right square, put the number 2. That's going to be square 2. Lower left, put 3.
Okay.
Lower left, put 3. Lower right, put 4. Now, we're going to play word association. I'm going to ask a question and write down what comes to mind. Let's not censor it. Let's not judge it, because our gut has the answers to the happiness test if we'll honor it, right? And not, oh, well, that's not nice. I can't say that. No, write it down. You don't have to tell anybody. Okay, square 1. What are you doing in your life that you want to? Now, you can do this just your career if you want, or you can do it in your life. Maybe what you're doing in your life that you want to is you're doing meaningful work. Maybe what you're doing in your life that you want to is you're putting on these big conferences and meetings, and you know that people are benefiting from it. Maybe what you're doing in your life that you want to is that you're working with people who you enjoy and who respect you. Maybe what you're doing that you want, is working in the association industry, where you get to combine your passion and profession because you really care about nursing, or you really care about retail or something like that. So what are you doing you want to?
Yay. Okay.
Now let's switch over to 2. Square 2. What are you not doing and you don't want to?
Okay.
So write it down. And now, by the way, I can share some trends because thousands of people have filled this out and I've been keeping track. Number 1, what people aren't doing that they want to is work out. Go to the gym, exercise, whatever. Number 2 is eat right. They're not doing
yeah.
what they want to. Number 3, let me write it down because I actually wrote down, sleep.
Oh, right. Sleep. Sleep is so good.
And maybe you and I talked beforehand, maybe we're not speaking at our conventions or our conferences, or not doing online programs, or we're not writing a book, or we're not, positioning ourselves in community leadership or something. So what are we not doing that we want?
I hope you guys are doing this. I see you attendees, there's like 18 of you in Zoom right now, and I'm looking over. Oh, I see some of you over on YouTube too. I know you can do this. All right. So what are you not doing and you want to? That's square 2. So I've got mine. All right.
Square 3. What are you doing that you don't want to? Guess what the number 1 answer is often in here?
Social media.
Yeah, you know
Social media. Did I win something?
And square 3 is also TV. A lot of people are saying.
Yeah.
Number 3 is commute. Maybe you're commuting 2 hours a day. You don't want to.
Yeah.
Maybe you're working long hours. Maybe you're working 50, 60 hours a week and you don't want to. Maybe what you're not doing that you want to is maybe you're not living in the city. Maybe you're living out in the suburbs and you're missing out, because you can't stay and have drinks with your friends afterwards because you won't get home till 8 o'clock or something. So what are you not doing that you want?
Okay. Yeah, that one was definitely social media for me, was the top one for sure. Okay.
Now let's go over to square 4.
Okay.
Now, what are you not doing and you don't want to? And yes, for all our English majors, that is a double negative. And it's important because this identifies things that were in your past that were undermining your happiness, but you got rid of them. Maybe you were smoking. You don't smoke anymore. You're not doing it. You don't want to.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's a professional speaker, Mary Loverdi, and she said, red eyes. I'm not doing red eyes anymore.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
So maybe what you're not doing that you don't want to is working with people that are toxic. Maybe you got yourself out of a situation and you never want to do that again, is work around people you don't trust, or work around people who are gossiping or bad mouthing or something. Okay. All right. Now take your pen.
Okay.
Please circle the answers in box 1 and 4. So square 1 and 4.
Okay.
And guess what? That's contributing to your happiness.
Yay.
That is what's helping you be happy. All right. Now circle the answers in square 2 and 3. And this is what's wrong with our life. This is what's undermining our happiness. And this is where the some days lurk.
Wow.
Question though.
So,
John Foster
I don't know
Dulles.
what everybody else's looks like, but yeah, we'll have to share these. Those in the book club, we'll have to share our little examples when it gets to that. So,
and Kiki, there's a quick 60-second ad because let's interpret this, what it means, right? Okay. Many people in DC fly out of Dulles all the time, and John Foster Dulles said, the mark of a successful organization or individual isn't whether or not it has problems. It's whether it has the same problems last year. So the question is, how long? How long have those things been in box 2 or 3? Because that's where procrastination comes in. That's where we know that this is wrong in our life. We know that it's not working, and yet we keep delaying it or putting it off or feeling we can't do anything about it. And that's what I'm on a mission to do, is help us change those things in 2 and 3. Because when we do, we're leading a life of results, not regrets.
Okay, so how do we do that, Sam? What's our next step?
I love it.
Done the happiness box. We want to stop procrastinating. Now what?
Okay, now here is an example, because many people say, Sam, I don't have more time and I don't have more money. So that's why I can't change it. So I'm going to share one of my favorite examples. I know a couple who filled this out, and they had an honest discussion, and they realized that resentment had creeped into their marriage. They loved their kids, they loved each other, but they were working full time, they were commuting, and it was they're out of the house by 6:30 in the morning. They're not back until 6:30 at night. By the time they put the kids down, they're exhausted by 9 o'clock. And so they realized, though, they had the answers to the test. They don't have more time. They started swapping time. Monday night is Patty's night, and she goes to Pilates or yoga or the gym or to the library, whatever she wants. It's her night. Tom picks up the kids. It's her night. Wednesday is Tom's night. He goes to game night and hangs out with his friends and so forth. And Friday, they don't have more money, but they have another couple in the neighborhood and they swap. So one Friday, they'll take care of the other couple's kids and theirs, so they can go out. And then the next Friday, it's their turn. And here's their rule. They have to go somewhere new because they wanted romance back in their marriage. And just going to the mall or to a movie or to dinner, that's not going to get the affection back in their marriage. So they swap, and it's a surprise date night. And each time, it doesn't even have to be money or anything like that, but they have put the romance back in their marriage and removed the resentment just by swapping time and swapping money with someone else. And that's how, even they're still commuting, they're still working long, they still have their family, but they finally have the quality of life they want now instead of someday.
And so I love this example because can you imagine that if they have kids or if they have close friends or family, what they're witnessing as they probably come alive from having this time to explore and do these things that they feel that they need to want to do.
Kiki, I hope everyone writes down this quote. It's from Esther Hicks. And she said, "My happiness is on me, so you're off the hook." See, so many of us are serving and sacrificing. Somewhere along the way, we feel it's noble to take care of everyone else but ourselves. And so sacrificing, we put our interests, our hobbies on the shelf in order to take care of our kids and go to their soccer games and take them to martial arts and piano lessons. And you have just pinpointed, what are we modeling? We are modeling for our kids that as parents, you take yourself out of the picture. Isn't it more important that we model to our employees? You know that 52% of people don't take their full vacation. 52% don't take their vacation. So if we're a manager, what are we modeling to our employees? If we're modeling that 1 week, 2 weeks a year, we don't get to do what we want, that work is far more important than ourselves. I don't think that's a healthy lesson.
It's not healthy at all. And you can see why people are getting just overtaxed, overwhelmed over everything because they're not taking the time. They're not even taking the limited amount of time that they have that they can. So, I guess the next step is then, all right, we're going to move past procrastination. We're going to move into action. We're going to do something about it. But yet people still seem to come up with barriers. We're really good about that, aren't we? I mean,
yeah. It's, Jack Welch says, change before you have to. And so here are 2 ways to disrupt this norm that we're too busy to do things differently. It's when I was in Hawaii, I was a pretty good tennis player, and I played with a woman named Kathy Worley, who was one of the top realtors on Maui. But then the economy went bad, and she said, "Sam, I can't play tennis anymore. I got to go out and do biz dev." I said, "Kathy, you're a realtor. There are 2 5-diamond hotels right down the street, the Grand Wailea and the Four Seasons. Just go to the concierge, let them know you're a 4-5 player, and you'd be glad to play with guests who are looking for a good game." In 2 weeks, she was playing 4 times a week, this time all with potential clients. Now,
wow.
She's pushing realty stuff on them. It's natural. They're having an iced tea after good match. So what do? I'm a realtor. Oh, what's going on with properties? Well, we've got one about 5 minutes away if you just want to see it. Please stop seeing work and recreation as separate. Do not silo them. How can we combine our passion and profession so we have the best of both worlds? Our hobby can be biz dev.
So how do we, why is it important that we do that? And how do we make it easier to see some of those solutions? Because you were able to see that clearly and share that with her. But I think a lot of us who are in the middle of it, in the thick of our lives, it's so hard to see where those opportunities might be. We think, oh, I love poetry, but that doesn't fit with what I'm doing as, as CIO for my association.
I love that you're saying this, because once again, people in the audience may be thinking, Sam, I'm not an entrepreneur. I have a 9-to-5 job. I don't have the freedom or the autonomy to do that. Well, I love speaking on this topic for corporations and associations. So I was speaking at Nationwide, and we were talking about how to combine our passion and profession.
Okay.
And the photographer came up to me afterwards and he said, I'm the poster child for your program. I said, how so? He said, Sam, he says, I'm a shy guy. He said, I worked for Nationwide for 20 years. I take the bus to work. I pretty much put in my time. I turn around and go home. And he said, I'm kind of one of that demographic that was lonely and isolated. I'm surrounded by people, but I'm an introvert. I'm a shy. He said, a woman in my department found out I was a photographer in my spare time and asked me to shoot the fashion show that the Professional Women's Network was putting on. So I did. They turned out pretty good. Another department asked me to shoot a retirement party and then a birthday party. He says, now I'm the photographer for the leadership series for Nationwide. He said, Nationwide has turned into my own private Cheers. He said, everybody knows my name. I look forward to going to work. He said, I have so many friends at work now because photography, he's in IT. But see, there are people there so maybe you love books or reading. Maybe you could host a book club like you do for your association. Once a month, people they play guitar or they do makeovers or whatever. Maybe once a month in the lunchroom or something like that, people bring their passions or what they love to do so that we're getting to know each other as people and not just as a coworker or not just the project leader or not just that department head, but a holistic experience where we're bringing in what we love to work, because everyone wins when we have that meaningful connection with each other instead of just putting in our time.
I love that. Okay, and I just want to bring in some comments from people who are watching. William says, I want to own this now. Yes, you can. I am sure that you can definitely go and purchase your book, purchase the Audible, and you can definitely participate in the book club too for association. And then Rebecca says, I love this work and recreation. I need to do a lot more of this. And Anne says, me too, Becky. I am taking coworkers to Daybreaker. All right. So yes, we have that connection to Daybreaker. Nice. And Jeanette over here on YouTube says, we started a book club at my office and it's been great to meet other coworkers who like reading. Awesome. That's so.
Kiki, one suggestion about a book club, rotate the leadership, because that's how it's different every time. It's now Sue's in charge of it, Bob's in charge of it, Charlie's in charge of it. Every time is different. It gives people skin in the game. It gives it a novelty, inside joke, play on words.
Novelty. I know. I like it.
Some of these I just do for myself, Kiki.
I love it. I love it. Well, okay. So we definitely have to do that. And Jeanette, I'm going to voluntold you. Or Anne, maybe. We'll see. We'll have to talk about that one. And Jeanette says, yeah, we recently did this and now we get more people to come since we're reading a variety. I love that. Okay, so we're disrupting the norm. We're bringing our passion and our careers together. We're figuring out how to marry those things. All right, there is something else that you talk about quite a bit, and that is to stop watering dead plants. What's that all about?
Well, I get to give a shout out to Mariah Burton Nelson, who is a VP of Innovation for ASAE, right?
Yes.
So, Mariah, for giving me my first epiphany on my year by the water, is that Mariah and some friends gave me a send-off party, and we had a wonderful time. And on the way out the door, she said, "Keep an eye out for that hurricane." And it's like a Scooby-Doo moment. Hurricane. Well, I was headed to Chesapeake Bay, and so was a hurricane. And I thought, well, I better get on the road. Kiki, an hour later, the windshield wipers can't keep up with the horizontal rain. And this little thought bubble pops up and says, why drive into a hurricane? Well, because I had commitments to keep, right? I'd made a promise, and you don't break promise. You keep your commitments, right? And an hour later, I'm thinking I'm at risk. So I texted her and I said, it's getting a little intense out here. Can I come another time? She didn't even hesitate. 2 minutes later, it's like, of course, keep yourself safe. The home will be here when you're ready. But my epiphany, Kiki, was how many commitments am I keeping because I think it's the right thing to do? How many relationships am I staying in? How many unhealthy situations am I staying in? Because we believe, how many traditions in the association world, how many things do we keep doing because we've always done it this way? And my whole epiphany was, often we can revisit that commitment, we can renegotiate it, and it ends up being better for everyone involved. It's not the wrong thing to do. If you are in a toxic situation, don't keep watering that dead plant. Yeah. It's like, switch and water live plants where everyone involved is blossoming and alive and well, instead of continuing to pour our time and effort and resources into something that are dead or over.
I think that's those are such wise words, because so many of us are guilty of doing that, and we just keep doing the thing because we've always done it. And maybe we're even good about recognizing this, for our associations, programs that need to die. But boy, is it hard when we make assumptions about ourselves and don't challenge those assumptions as we're going along, because we change too, right? So there was an interesting story that you told. I like to listen to interviews that guests have with other people before they come on. And one of the stories that you told was a story about traveling down, along California's coast. And it was about, do you remember this story before I...
I remember?
Okay.
I almost lost my life. I remember the story, Kiki.
Yes. So could you, I liked this story because of sort of the moral of the story that came out of it. Would you mind sharing that with everyone?
You bet. It's like, if I could see everyone, I would ask, how many of you have driven the Pacific Coast Highway, that lovely Highway 1 from San Francisco down to the Central Coast? I made a big mistake. I didn't get there until dusk. Now, I didn't think about it very much. There was still light, but then a half an hour later, the sun went down. There was no moon. It was pitch black. And furthermore, there had been a lot of construction because of the landslides. So a lot of the times the road narrowed to one lane, and there's one flimsy guardrail. And Kiki, I lost my equilibrium. I am crawling along at 15 miles an hour because the road keeps turning out from underneath you. You don't know what's next. So my brain is sloshing around, and then here comes a truck up behind me and honks. Well, I did what I always did, what I was taught to do growing up. I pulled over, right? You let the person ahead of you, right? Mm-hmm. But it was a gravel pullover. And when I hit the brakes, I started sliding. And the harder I braked, the more I slid. And I finally ended up about a foot or two from the edge of the cliff. And I sat there and I shook. And what I realized is that I'd been putting other people first all my life. No, you go ahead. No, you first. And it had almost cost me my life. And now I am not suggesting that we be selfish, that we only think of ourselves. It's just, for so many of us, our default. No, you go ahead. Put other people first. And now I had a friend who also made this so clear to me. When I was clear, I gave away 95% of what I owned. Let it go, let it go, let it go, right? And she pulled me over, she beckoned me over to the refrigerator, and she pointed to the refrigerator and she said, Sam, what do you see? Well, there were pictures of Andrew playing Little League. There was a picture of Tom at prom. There was them getting their driver's license. There was them with their friends. Kiki, guess what wasn't on the refrigerator?
What? You weren't there.
There were no pictures of me on my book tours or speaking or with my friends. Wow. I had literally and figuratively taken myself out of the picture. And I think that many of us, have had the privilege of being around the association world for years, and we are a service industry. We take care of our members, we take care of our customers, we take care of our coworkers, and so often we take ourselves out of the picture. And it is not selfish to put ourselves back in the picture, to make ourselves part of the mix instead of just everybody else going first. It's not selfish, it's smart.
It's smart, and it can save your life. I mean, you have some pretty dramatic examples that you share in your stories. And I think there are a couple of things that came out of the stories that we've heard today already. One is, be careful when you're driving, Sam, because either a hurricane or whichever coast you're on, we need to be careful. And the other one, though, is that, really evaluating when it's easy to slide back into putting ourselves second. It's easy to do that. I mean, what we're talking about here is this is a lesson that you've realized a few times, and that's probably because it's in different aspects of your life at different moments. And we all probably would do well to consider it, maybe starting with this. And maybe there was, and what I'm holding up, you guys who are listening to this later and not actually seeing what I'm doing, is I held up the happiness box exercise. There's another exercise that you recommend people do too. There are a lot of exercises in the book. We're going to do those in the book club. But there's another exercise that I hear you reference a lot, and that the people in your workshops reference a lot online too. And that is these interviews that they take home. Could we talk maybe about that?
You bet. It's called the happiness interview. And in the association industry, we know all the statistics about loneliness and connection.
Yes.
Half of people in the United States say they have zero confidence that they can talk about what's really meaningful, that they feel really care about them. Half. So this is a kickstart to a meaningful conversation. It's right on my website, or I think you have the link for it through your show.
I do. Yeah.
Print out the interview and then ask a family member or a friend or a coworker, and go out to a meal and interview each other so that you have the luxury of going deep into these questions, not giving surface answers. It's not chit chat. It's really thinking about who's contributed to our happiness, who's compromised it. What is contributing to our happiness? What has compromised it? Whether it's money, whether it's our career, whether it's our relationships, we go deep into this topic. And Kiki, as I said, I'm a woman on a mission. And when I hear back from people that they had the most meaningful conversation of the last 10 years because of that happiness interview, then I know that this book is working, because the first step is to be honest in looking at our life and to really pinpoint what's working, what's not, and then what are we going to do about it? And the happiness interview can kickstart that process.
I love that. I think it's such a great idea to take the time and really connect meaningfully with the people around us and not just do this surface level stuff. And, what I love is that you've always been masterful at the pitch and being able to put across ideas in a way that is impressive as far as how people perceive it. But it's beyond the perception. I feel like some day is not a day in the week. These conversations are about, okay, yeah, you can look good. I can help you look good. I can help you sound good, but let's talk about really feeling good. Let's talk about what has this deeper meaning here, that represents something that goes to the core of why we're even here. Like, if we are not connecting with what it is that we feel is our purpose, or what it is, not even putting that much of a heaviness on it, but not really doing those things that we really long to do in this life, my gosh, what are we doing?
Kiki, you've really pinpointed the evolution of a life and a career. is that for many of us, we're in business and we're concerned about our brand, and we're thinking about persuasion techniques, and we're thinking about winning funding, and that is important and necessary. And I've been very grateful to have an opportunity to help people with their TEDx talks and their brands and their businesses. And in the evolution of a life, I think what we're coming to is along the way, that we get so busy, we stop paying attention to who and what really mattered. And this book is a tool for us to take time out in our life right now and really ask ourselves, all right, what are my true priorities? What will matter in the long run? And am I giving that the attention that it deserves? Chuck Yeager, who broke the sound barrier, said, at the moment of truth, there are either reasons or results. And we have a lot of reasons why we're not doing what we want to do. And hopefully this book helps us transform those reasons into results so we don't have regrets.
Wow. Okay, you guys, I am like that. That's powerful. I'm really, I'm going to have to look up that quote and maybe put it on one of my index cards, my famous index card that I have here. These index cards, you guys, by the way, are powerful. I don't know that there's anything magical about the cards themselves, but it is actually an index card, and writing down, listening to that intuition, which you write about a lot, about intuition and listening to that inner voice, that led me to you, that led me to actually doing these interviews just recently with you, with Andrew, your son, with Mickey and Radha Agarwal. And so can we talk a little bit about, what it is that makes us sort of doubt that intuition or not listen to it? I feel like we've gotten so out of practice of listening to that inner voice. And I think that you are actually, you're really good about calling our attention to it in the book. And so could you maybe help us call our attention to it now?
You bet. This is a podcast and a webinar for people at work in associations, right? And at work, we have to get it right. We have to have the answers. We have to justify decisions that we've made or actions that we take. So it needs to be logical. It needs to be fact-based. We need to be able to be intellectual and in making decisions that will make sense and deliver results over time. So that's important. However, what I've learned is that our strength taken to an extreme is our Achilles heel. And for many of us, we have abandoned our intuition and our instincts because we can't be in a boardroom and say, well, why did you make that decision? Well, my gut told me so. I got a nudge. It's like, bye-bye, right?
Yeah.
So on my year by the water, though, I had the freedom and the luxury to explore. I told myself I would do the opposite of my always. I would partner with what wanted to happen instead of plan it. I would cooperate with life instead of control it. So I am in Tampa speaking, and I need to be up in Savannah in a few days to speak up there. I'm supposed to take the train. But guess what, Kiki? You don't have autonomy on a train. You see something interesting, you just whiz right by it, right?
Right.
Amy Poehler, I get a little itchy if I don't have some kind of control. Isn't that great? Add that one to your index card.
Yeah, right.
So I decided I was going to drive, and I decided I was not going to predetermine a destination or a route. I was just going to head north. And so after a few hours, I thought, all right, I'm just going to see what's ahead. Guess what? Marineland was an hour ahead, the site of the first dolphin encounter. So I called him and I said, is there any chance that I could swim with the dolphin this afternoon? They had room for one more person. So an hour later, I'm swimming with Zach. An hour later, I am in the lagoon with Zach the dolphin. And the trainer turns to me and she said, would you like to give Zach a command? I'm thinking, would I like to give Zach a command? She says, point your finger to the sky. So I pointed my finger to the sky and Zach took off across the pool and he came back and she said, you want to give him another command? Yeah. So now this time, point your finger to the sky and twirl it 3 times. So I did. This time he took off and then he dove down and then he leapt out of the water in this triple backflip. Kiki, I cannot help myself. I'm doing the YMCA, right? My arms are like this. Zach is doing a triple backflip in the middle of it. I didn't even know Zach existed 2 hours before.
Yeah.
Kiki, we are planning and controlling our life. What hubris, what myopic vision to limit ourselves to only what we know. It is only when we put in space in our life, when we say, all right, I am not going to schedule my Saturday morning instead of boop, 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 here. Nope, I'm going to wake up and then we're just going to see what unfolds, just even for a morning.
Wow.
Do you know the magic that now can come into our life when we're not controlling every minute of it?
Ooh, you guys, what are you thinking? Okay, so at this point, I am curious to find out what our audience is thinking right now, because for me, I know that I'm thinking, wow, I really do schedule up all of my time. I very rarely find that I allow time to explore, to listen to that intuition, or to allow for space for these surprises and these adventures to happen.
So can I share? I'd love to hear what people say. Here's 90 more seconds about leaving room for the nudges, making room for what calls us, okay?
Yes.
I'm watching, once again, CBS Sunday Morning, and the gentleman who wrote The Gift of Fear, Gavin DeBaker, is on. Mm-hmm. And he is a security consultant. And so his clients are politicians and celebrities, and he gives them protection when they're traveling. And the reporter said, well, if someone has been kidnapped or is held hostage, if you get them back, what do you do? And he says, I debrief them. He said, do you know my first question? Did you have any warning? And Kiki, guess what they all say?
What?
I knew something was wrong.
Wow.
But see, then their intellect overrode their instincts. It's like, I'm in an armored car. What could happen? It's broad daylight. There's no one wrong. I'm being silly. And what I realized, if we have instincts that alert us to what's about to go wrong, don't we also have instincts that alert us to what's about to go right? See, we see a person and we're just drawn to that person. It's like we see something in the paper and we think, I should sign up for that. We're at an event and this little nudge says, no, don't go to this session you were planning. Go over here to this session. And so often we let our intellect override our instincts. And I'm just saying, not all the time, but some of the time, if you listen to those instincts, they have our best interest at heart. Mm-hmm. Instead of overriding them with our intellect, if we trust them, have you ever known when your instincts have led you wrong?
No. In fact, probably even 2 years ago, I would have said, yes, I do. And then later it turned out that I was right. So, isn't that crazy how you can think, I was so wrong about that person. And then it turns out that no, you weren't. So it is a little bit wild. I want to pull in some comments from over here. Going back to the highway story, people are saying, oh, I know that highway, be careful. Can't imagine it in the dark. Wow. Somebody said, I'm headed for a big birthday. Includes a 0 and a 6. These tools are just what I need to make my some days happen before I hit the next 0. True. I've got some index cards that I need to write down. I love this. Nice. I met Sam when we carried her book at the ASA bookstore. The book was Tung Fu. I've been energized and enlightened by her since then. I can't wait to get this book. Yes. LaShawn says, great food for thought, but also scary as a planner by profession and nature. This is something I need to strive for. Yeah, allowing some room so that you can explore and see what happens. Scary stuff. I asked my 10-year-old for the remote control the other day, and when he asked why, all I could come up with was because I like to have control. Nice. Oh, I love it. So, and then I definitely listened to my instincts when I met Sam at the Central Coast Writers Conference. You've been an inspiration to me since that weekend. I love it, you guys. Excellent comments. You know, why is it that we think it is selfish to do what we want to do, Sam? Is there a way that we can change it? I know we've talked about some examples of why it's important to listen, but can we get over this idea that we're doing something wrong if we're taking an art class or if we're exploring, and not scheduled for our Saturday morning?
Kiki, I think part of it is the Puritan work ethic.
Yeah.
What was modeled for us, right, is that work is the responsible thing to do. And once again, if your work isn't finished, then it is indulgent of you and hedonistic, and selfish of you to have fun. There are things that need to be done. So I think that was modeled for us. I'm going to get really personal, Kiki, and I'm going to share something else with you, because it's not just taking an art class, and it's not just going to the gym. We are talking about our health.
Mm-hmm.
It is, I'm going to just condense this. Just suffice it to say, my sister got breast cancer a few years ago, and I went to take care of her. And, all of her friends got together and they brought in potluck dinner one night. And the next night they brought in this. And the fourth night they said, called, what would you like for dinner? And she said, oh, thank you. Sam is here. I've got it. And she said, we've got it handled. And thank heaven this friend looked at her and said, Sheri, we love you. If you don't let us help you, we feel helpless. Please let us do that for you. And Sheri and I unpacked that, and we thought, where did we get this idea that asking for or accepting help was just something you did not do? And we realized it was our mom. And our mom was misdiagnosed with multiple sclerosis for years. And I could put my hand by her neck and I could feel the pain. And I would say, Mom, can I fix dinner? Can I go? I've got it. See, she didn't want to be a burden.
Mm-hmm.
He felt that soldiering on, that keeping her pain to herself, she didn't want to be a bother or a burden. And so that was modeled for us. And Kiki, 2 months ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. And you know what? I got the diagnosis an hour before I picked up Andrew from the airport, and we were going to have a family weekend.
Oh my gosh.
Kiki. I didn't
tell him. Yeah.
I thought I didn't want to ruin the weekend. I didn't want to. They had enough on their plate. And Kiki, it backfires, because when they found out, they felt betrayed.
Yeah.
They felt, why didn't you tell us?
Right.
Why didn't you trust us? And I compromised what I care about most, which is the people I love, because I did not tell the truth. So see, now let's take this discussion a little bit deeper, because it's not just about taking your business on the road for a year, taking an art class, or going to the gym. It is like, where are we not telling people we care about what's important? We're not talking about what's actually happened, because we don't want to be a burden, because, we have to be strong, because we think it might hurt their feelings, and at what cost. What I have discovered is that the intimacy that comes from vulnerability is one of the most precious things. My sons and I, by the way, I forgot the good news. A month after that diagnosis, the doctor came back and said, oops, our bad. No evidence of cancer.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
I have a reprieve. And what is my takeaway from that experience is that I reverted to my default of being strong, of not telling people, of not wanting to be a burden, because that was what was taught to me. And it almost cost me what I hold most close, which is the relationships of the people I love.
Wow. Oh my gosh, you guys, what a story. I mean, can you, my heart, I didn't even realize it, but I was holding my breath while you were like, everything's okay. And yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that when we keep these things away, when we don't share, when we sacrifice these relationships that matter the most to us, and we think we're doing something that's heroic, we think we're doing something that is, it's better if I just shoulder all of this myself. And that was never really, that's not part of being in a relationship where you're sharing with each other, right?
Kiki, why is there a connection in a loneliness crisis?
Yeah.
It's because we have bought into this perception that we cannot talk about things that really matter.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
like at work, we can't talk about it because maybe they wouldn't trust us to like run the program, or that we couldn't deliver on this project or something like that. But
Yeah.
we've taken it too far once again. And some day is not a day in the week. If, as you talked about, the deeper meaning of this book is Paulo Coelho said, one day we're going to wake up and there won't be any time left to do the things we've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
So what do we want to do? Who do we love most? What do we care about most? And are we putting it aside because we're too busy? What's that about? It's not too late if we start now.
Yeah. I wanted to, you use quotes so often and beautifully, by the way. And I wish I could do this. But I did, there was one that I pulled from your book. And it did have to do with intuition. I just realized that I hadn't mentioned it before, but I love Rumi. I love poetry. And he talks about intuition as the voice that doesn't use words. And so it was something that you had brought attention to in your book. And I just wanted to bring attention to it to everyone else out there who loves Rumi and might really appreciate that. But you cite everyone from Beyonce to Bill Gates to Brian Tracy in your book. It's a really wide variety. It's not just poets, not just like, it's everyone. So do you have a favorite quote?
I think that it is from Rene Ricard, who said, tomorrow is another day, but so was yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And here's like the 60-second story that goes with that kind of brings everything together, is that I was speaking in Boston and a woman said, is there any place you didn't get to go on here by the water? And I said, Walden Pond. And she said, it's an hour away. So Kiki, I did all of the hacks in the book. Instead of keeping my commitment, because I was supposed to fly out that day, I had a consult. I called the person with the consult, said, any chance we can do this Friday? She said, that's better for me. Instead of thinking, well, this is a busy week, I changed my calendar. The next day I'm driving to Walden Pond. I get there early. It's October in New England. And there's a man walking by with a towel thrown over his shoulder. And I said, is it warm enough to swim? He said, it is if you go down by the cove where Thoreau's cabin was. It's shallow there. And so I go down there, and I didn't bring a swimsuit. It's October in New England. And I'm standing on the shore going, should I? Shouldn't I? Should I? Shouldn't I? And I thought, at the moment of truth, there are reasons or results. I don't have a swimsuit, but I am here. And I knew I wanted to walk where Thoreau walked. I knew we wanted to write where he wrote. And now I had an opportunity to swim where he swam. And I went in.
I love it.
I will remember floating on that water and looking at the fall colors mirrored in the lake. And I thought, clothes dry, memories don't.
Yeah.
We are here to go in, Kiki. We are here to go in.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. So, Sam, that's incredible. I cannot believe some of these wonderful experiences. And this is the thing. This is what you're saying in the book. And this is really what this is all about. And guys, again, this is Someday is Not a Day in the Week, 10 hacks to make the rest of your life the best of your life. Because I see a lot of you writing in the comments, talking about this has been on my mind a lot. This whole don't be a burden has defined a lot of my life. I hear you. Me too. And all of us write Me Too. And so we're going to discuss this book more as the book of the month for Association Chat. Sam, if people want to follow up with you, if they want to find out more about your workshops, about your speaking, about everything that is Sam, where can they find more information?
It's real easy. They can just go to my website, which is intrigueagency.com. So it's INTRIGUE agency.com. And my TEDx talk on this topic, and the happiness interview, and the happiness box. And there's all kinds of posts, hopefully, that really motivate people to get clear on what matters and bring more of it into their life now, not later.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has actually been something I have been looking forward to for a long time, and I am very, very excited still. And I can't believe my good fortune to have the chance to talk with you today, and for all of us to talk with you. Everyone, please do pick up this book. If you're interested, there is an Association Chat book club. Go to the Patreon page for Association Chat to find out more. And thanks to everyone for participating. I hope you learned something helpful today that's going to help you and hopefully embrace life and know that someday is not just another day of the week. It's not a day of the week. Until next time, everyone, keep asking questions to learn every day. As Joseph Campbell once said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. I hope you have a great week, everyone. Thank you so much, Sam. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it. Hope people did too.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.